Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we are continuing our concentration on a new game that is actually coming out in just 2 days. We have the pre-order edition here, so I'm able to jump on, do some tests for you just like this. This is PGA 2K23, and I wanted to do some wind test for you today. So one thing I struggle with in the last game a little bit is actually judging the wind strength when shaping some of my shots. So I wanted to think of a way that I can come in here and scientifically, or kind of pseudo-scientifically, test the wind. And the best way I can figure to do that, instead of playing random courses with random winds, is actually come into the course designer and do some testing. So what I did is, I'll back out of here real quick. I just came into the course and created there it goes. So it started me off with a full 18 hole course. I went through the settings and just deleted it to where there was just one. I didn't like this one. I just wanted to make a straight shot. So out down here I made hole number 2. I want to say it's 170 to the middle of the green, I think is what I put in. And so what I'm going to do is right here, we can test the wind. We have no wind, low wind, medium, high, and very high. And I wanted to see what the distance is going to be. And if I hit it 100% accurate with 100% power, how far that's going to go. We have no wind, so it's pretty calm out here. If I go into settings, go to difficulty, take swing difficulty and go all the way to the beginner. Everything's on beginner. That way, no matter what I do, it's going to be the most repeatable action. It gives me a wide variance to be able to make sure that this is as fair and as even as possible. So we'll exit out of here. So here we go, straight shot. You can see our pin is 166. Actually, that's where our cursor is. So if we'll come here, our pin is 170 yards. So 170 is what I made the pin location. So for this club, our 7-iron can go 177 yards in ideal conditions. So if I come out of here and I hit it 100% in both yellow areas, it should go to that number. So right there, 177, it hit on 177. That is without any wind. That's perfect, calm conditions. So let's rewind our shot. Let's do. All right, let's just do a. We'll start with a 9-iron. It goes 155. 155 is our max. So if I come here and I do this, hit our 100% 9-iron shot, I should hit that 155. 155 right there. It was probably just leaning a little bit towards 156, but that's exactly the number that it said that it would hit in ideal conditions at 100%. We'll do one more shot. So here we did 7-iron. So now we should hit our 6-iron 187 yards. All right, so there's 100% accuracy and power. $187. There's our number. So for the, I've already done this test, and the numbers that I came across with, so we're on the lowest wind setting. Right now it's sitting at 2, between 2 and 3. If we go up, right now our 7-iron will go 177 yards. From the testing that I've done, it's a lot like it was last year. For every 1 mile an hour of wind, that's how many yards you should compensate for. So if we hit it 177 with a 2 mile an hour wind in our face, we should hit it 175. So if I go ahead and give this a 100% swing, we should see the 175 number. So it was just a little bit long. So here's our 100% 7-iron shot again. So with 2 miles an hour into our face, we should be looking at a 175 to 176. So we hit a 176 on that. 187 yards total. So we can do it probably a 185 to 186 is what we're going to be looking at. So here we go. We're hitting the green. 186. Right as we hit, 187 kicked forward. So very small amounts of wind. You're wanting to account for 1 mile an hour, just under 1 mile an hour for compensation. So here we are, medium winds. This is 6 miles an hour. And let's go ahead and go to our 7-iron. So even at 177 yards in medium wind conditions, we're still taking 1 yard for every mile an hour of wind. So here we're at 6. We're going to hit it 177. That's going to put us at the 171-ish range. So there's a good strike, 100%. So we're looking for 169 to 171. So we hit 170. So we took off just about 6 or 7 yards for that, which, as you can see now, we're at 7 miles an hour worth of wind. So even at medium winds, we're looking at 1 yard for every mile an hour that the wind is going. So now we're at 12 miles an hour worth of wind. This is where I find the sweet spot. Between 11 and 12 is where the wind kind of shifts on you and picks up in intensity. So let's go to our 7-iron. We'll zoom out. Once again, 177 is our cap at 12 miles an hour wind. Now it kind of kicks it up. It's no longer a 1-to-1 ratio. It's more like a 1.2 to 1.3 kind of thing. So I've got my handy dandy notes here where I had some calculations on there. So if we're looking at a 12 mile an hour wind, if we multiply that by 1.2, that gives us about 14.5 yards worth of compensation that we need to account for. So if we're going 177, that's going to give us a 165-ish kind of range, 164 to 165.5. So let's see how it goes. We 100% on there. So we're looking about a 165 is what we're going to hit at. So, and that's where it's a little difficult. Sometimes it's a little bit more, sometimes it's a little bit less. So let's rewind that. Once again, that's why I kind of gave the calculation of a 1.2 to a 1.3. So if we have 12 times a 1.2 was 14.4. If we do a 1.3, that's 15.5 yards now. That if we go to that 1.3 ratio, which is what that would have been. So let's hit it again now. All right, so here we got our 7-iron. We're hitting it into 12 miles an hour wind. And so we're hitting that 160 range. So we're taking 15 to 16 yards off. And that's that 12 with the multiplication factor of about 1.2 to 1.3, sometimes a 1.4. So it gets you in the ballpark, but once again, it's not a super exact science. So let's go ahead and we'll edit course, and let's take a look at the very last wind. which is very high. So we'll play hole 2. So here we're at 17 miles an hour. And once again, where 17 miles an hour is where it kind of shifts it into third gear, we'll say. So we'll go to our 7-iron, 177. Very high wind is about 17 miles an hour. This is where it shifts, like I said, from like a 1.2 to 1.3, sometimes a 1.4. Now we're hitting the 1.4s to the 1.6s. So if we're at 16 miles an hour, that's probably going to be on the lower side. So we'll probably be at like a 1.4, which would be 22.5 yards. So if we give it a good swing, pop it up in the air, 151 to 152. So we're right there in that ballpark. And so this is just going to be a very quick and dirty video. Nothing special, no fancy graphics or cameras or anything like that. Just wanted to give you some of my thoughts about the wind. So I took it into the course designer, and this is what I found. If you're going into the winds anywhere up to about 10 or 11 miles an hour, you're looking at just about a yard per mile an hour worth of wind. Then the second tier is anywhere from 11 to 12 to about 17 or 18. Sometimes 19, just depending on, I guess, the course and what I've found. So once again, not super scientific, but then if you're in that second range, you're looking at about 1.2 to 1.3 yards per mile an hour worth of wind. Then if you're into some of those like super fantasy courses or even some of those beach courses, if you're hitting into 16, 17, 18 miles an hour worth of wind, you really need to add about 1.5 times whatever the wind is. So if you're hitting 18 miles an hour worth of wind, you need to compensate for just about 25 yards worth of either extra carry or 25 yards worth of knockdown. And once again, that's just my findings here. Simple test that I've done in the course designer. That's why I went to the settings, changed the difficulty of the swings to beginner so I can have a repeatable swing. And this is what I found. I'm going to keep this graph up here just a little bit longer so you guys can check this out. And this works for just about every club that you can carry in your bag. And once again, this is not super scientific, but it is a very repeatable process. It doesn't matter if what club you're using. Wind is going to be wind. The only thing you can do to compensate is either loft your club to, try to punch it under the wind a little bit, which you're going to lose some yardages on that because it's just not going to fly as far naturally. But that's the only thing that you can do to combat wind. Other than that, you just have to take what you get and play with it. So I hope you guys found this video informational. If you did, go ahead and give me a like. Consider subscribing because I have a ton more tips videos coming for this game just to help you get better, just to help me get better. What am I talking about? I'm not a professional by any stretch of the means, but I do enjoy this game and I love doing tests like this just so we can all have a better experience in PGA 2K23. We'll see you in the next video.